Welcome to the Women's Exporter Program podcast. This is your host, Maria Luisa Boyce, speaking from UPS. In this podcast, we will have countless guest speakers that will come in to share with you unique experiences they have had working in their field. We hope to motivate and inspire others to pursue careers in business while hearing the stories of our guest speakers. With that being said, today we have the honor of having Penelope Naas, Miss Penny Naas, UPS President of International Public Affairs and Sustainability, as our guest speaker. Mentor, amazing human being. This is from me that I've had the pleasure of work with her now for many years. And she's going to share with us her experiences, projects, and views regarding women's empowerment and inclusive trade. So, Penny, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Doing great. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. And I'm excited. I was actually very excited about today's podcast because you have been a mentor and a shining star in this topic. And as we're going to talk about women empowerment and business, I do want to ask you because I see your passion. What inspired you in your personal life to work on this topic? What has been your journey?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Maria and Luisa, and thank you so much for having me today and for all the work you do on this. You're an amazing advocate for women and women entrepreneurs and women exporters, and I just want to thank you for that. I almost have to go all the way back into my family. I grew up in a fairly traditional family. My mom didn't work until I was 12. She went back and got her degree and became a banker later in life. But my great aunt, who recently died at age 103, was really an entrepreneur and an unconventional individual. She ran our family campground in Northern Illinois, which was a summer recreational facility for families coming up from Chicago.
Oh, that's
And,
awesome.
and on the side, she was a social entrepreneur. She used to make these incredibly tacky Christmas ornaments, sell them at the at the front of the camp, and would donate the proceeds to a local charity on behalf of a child who had a physical disability that came to the camp. And over her life, she donated tens of thousands of dollars to this charity through the Christmas ornaments she made and sold every day. So I think when I think back, I think to some of the people in my own family and in my own life who, um, despite the conditions and the lack of education or other things about them, um, really just had this thing in them that they were gonna go out and make an impact and do certain things in the world. And that's something that I've always carried with me.
That is awesome, Penny. And it's amazing how those gifts of life, right, of family, what you are listening and looking at. And I love, thank you for sharing that story. As a mom, of a special needs child, I do appreciate very much those angels that always appear in different parts of life to help support. So you got the inspiration, you have the energy inside, and then you start your career, right? And then you start working on these issues. And when talking about international trade, because I'm gonna jump into jumping your career ahead, and maybe you can mention a little bit what do you consider is the most important advances made for women in the international trade environment since you started your career? Where have you seen those changes?
So I think if I could, I just got off a call with Carla Hills, who was the very first female USTR, US Trade Representative. And when you think back, it wasn't that long ago that Carla was the first female USTR. And when I was in university, I studied with a woman. Her name was Marina von Neumann Whitman. And Marina was the first female member of the Council of Economic Advisors. Her father is the father of game theory. And she was my professor, and she taught me international trade. And so I always had a passion for international trade. I always had a passion for cross-border. That's now bled into my personal life. I'm married to a European, so I've carried it quite far. But when I think about international trade, I think about how many women are now actively involved in a lot of countries around the world with regards to international trade. And I think that makes a huge difference because, when I first started out, it was very heavily focused on, I would say, industries and things that aren't really necessarily the things that impact individuals' day-to-day lives. It was a lot of steel, it was a lot of aviation, it was a lot of kind of heavy raw materials. That was the basis of trade. And now, as we've seen today, trade is much more dynamic, and particularly with the rise of e-commerce, we see how much trade literally impacts our daily lives. And the fact that more and more women are involved in the policy making around that, I think, helps to reflect that trade is now this extremely broad thing that all of us need to get our heads around and try to address, because it's something that's going to be very hard to stop.
Hmm. And I always love, and I hear, I'm going to share this with the audience. Penny has a lots of passions, but one of them, she believes strongly that we should educate younger kids about international trade and a book. And as I'm listening to you, one of the things also that has changed a lot is that there's single parents, right? Or the moms are the only breadwinners, or dads or moms, right? And trade might be an opportunity for them to enter into the economy, right? And so I think as you mentioned that, and I'm laughing when you say all the traditional heavy trade, what was trade in the 20th century. Sometimes I feel, this is my nerdiness, that the regulations still reflect those years and not the reality of the new 21st century. So if we look at what you're saying and how things have changed, the opportunities, what do you think we need to do further? What is from the next 5 or 10 years? How's private sector involved in this? Why are we at UPS having this podcast talking about international trade and women?
So when I think about when I think about this and I think about the opportunities, I think about the fact that women are really the foundation of many societies. And the societies that have women engaged in so many ways, not just as mothers or caregivers, but also as business women, as entrepreneurs, those societies are much more stable. And the societies that have women broadly reflected in all of their institutions are societies that are more resilient. And so for me, it becomes a question about how do we bring and improve societies overall by ensuring that there's a lot of diversity in terms of those societies. And when I looked around in the past, and when I still look around, and when I look at international trade, we have a lot of women on the policy side, but you still don't see women as reflected actually in the doing. And so when I think about where we need to go and what we need to do, 1 in 5 women is an exporter. That's it, in terms of businesses. The numbers are much different. Male-led businesses, it's closer to 50% of male-led businesses engage in some kind of international trade. It's only 1 in 5 for women. How do we improve that? Because I think that being a diverse business, not only resting and looking at your business being driven by one market, is incredibly important in building your own business resistance, your own business resilience, your own business stability. And I think that there's a lot more there that we can do to help women around the world grow their businesses, bring more stability and resilience to their businesses, and then to bring that back to their societies.
I love that. And I think for me, as I'm listening to you, this was in our Penny and I relationship. There's one phone call that she did a few years ago, and said, Maria Luisa, I want you to work on this program, our UPS Women Exporter program. And I think your vision, that phone call changed my life, by the way, to the audience. This is where I really jumped into this opportunity. And I think as I'm listening to you, we have been seeing how the importance of that capacity building training, right? Providing that information to women so they know the sky's the limit, right? What can be done. Can you tell us a little bit about the Women Exporter Program? Why, as a business, did we get involved in that, and why is it a good business proposition?
Let me just take a step back though, Maria. I want to just say one thing. I think as women, we are so brave in so many parts of our lives. We are so incredibly brave, and we are so incredibly dedicated to so many other parts of our lives and to so many other people normally in our lives. And yet, when it comes time to launch a business or when it comes time to do something different, we come with this self-doubt and this we have this imposter syndrome aspects. And for me, at least, not all women, but some that encouragement is just something that, despite how brave we are in so many other aspects of our life, when it comes to investing in ourselves sometimes, or investing in some of the ventures we want to go ahead and do, we don't have that same bravery. And what I'd love for all women to have is that feeling that we're here with you. You have a support network. You're not being brave on your own. You have other people behind you helping you and that are here to rely upon. When I think about the Women's Exporter Program, it's creating that support network. So it's the training, but also the networking. Finding that group of people who are experiencing and feeling the same thing you are, so that you realize that, you're not necessarily, you don't have to be that brave, because you have this support system you can fall back on, who's there to help you. We're all going through the pandemic. We're all going through these COVID times. And as women, we're having to juggle a lot of things. And I don't think it's so easy to kind of confess sometimes what we're all feeling and going through. I know I struggle sometimes to get through everything that's going on in a day, and to feel that I'm not failing everybody in my life as a result of it. But the Women's Exporter Program and the work we do with so many partners around the world is really that foundation that I think women who are making that very brave choice to pursue their dreams and to try to grow their business and to try to support their family know that there are people out there to help them, and that we're just a WhatsApp message away, or a phone call away, or a website or a mobile device link away, in providing answers, support, encouragement, whatever they need to help them be a success with what they're trying to do.
I love it. Thank you so much. And you took away my last question. What was going to be words of wisdom. And I agree with you. I think we have, as part of the Women Exporter Program, we launched a university, Women Export University, in the city of Atlanta. And that's one of the first messages that we tell them: you have a family, you have a support system. This is part of that. And I think, to your point, so important to know, join the network, educate, get the information. You're not alone, right? You're going to build this process. I think, for to close, Penny, and maybe to close it back with our audience. COVID is here. It will pass, but we will have a new normal, right? A new situation. I don't know if we want to call it a new normal, but things have changed. One change has been e-commerce, right? I mean, we saw changes in 7 months that we expected to take 10 years. Just a quick example: in Latin America, they were not used to using credit cards. They had to. Older people, older than 60, my parents, they had to get into digital trade and order things online, which they have never done, and use their credit card. What do you see in coming up? Where do we ask our women entrepreneurs to position themselves and pivot, leverage the network, and be ready for what?
Yeah, so I think that is true, that there is, I'm not sure if I'd call it a new normal, but I think we've all learned things over the past year and maybe accelerated certain trends or personal learnings. E-commerce being one. I think we've all, in many, many markets around the world, become much more much more likely. I would order special things online, but I wouldn't order kind of normal, traditional groceries, things like that, telemedicine. I had no clue. I think now we're all much more accustomed to that. So when I look at, women entrepreneurs, you now have that ability to use that digital platform. And frankly, people don't know if you're, you know, male, female, in this country, in another country, whether you might be my dog, it could be any of those things. And people don't know because it's an unbiased platform, and you have the ability to use it in a way. There are differences between how people use these platforms and access to platforms depending on where you are in the world. But there are things that you need to do to learn how to not just use only an online platform, but to use an omni-channel platform to reach customers. And by doing that, you have the opportunity to expand your business in new and exciting ways. So I think that online and digital and e-commerce are here to stay. They're only going to grow, and but they also create a world of opportunities for people to reach new markets and new customers. But you do need to educate yourself on what that means, what your obligations are, how you quote your prices, and how you market yourself in that kind of environment. And I think those are all things that we have information on and learnings on, and to help people with as they think about their future.
Thank you so much, Penny. Let me thank you. And I will wanted to tell you, I this has been a blessing to have you in the show and listen to you. I do want to tell you, for me, in my experience, when you were talking about how we feel every day as women, you're right. I think the most important day of my life is when I realized I was not Wonder Woman and I could not be perfect every day, because it is hard, right, to juggle everything. And you and I have the experience of having our parents far away. How do you take care of them, our kids, our spouse, everything, right? So you're not alone. You're in the community, and you're a shining star for us. And thank you for the example that you are, for all of us that work with you, and for women entrepreneurs. So let me ask you to say goodbye, and then we close the podcast.
So first, I'd like to say happy birthday to my mother, because today is my mother's birthday. Second, I'd like to apologize. I have 3 children at home running around, and it's a snow day where I am. So they're running around screaming in the background, just to say, to give you real life examples of how we have to juggle. And finally, I just want to tell all of you that we're here to support you. We're here to encourage you. We believe in you, and you can do it. And we're here to help. Us and our whole network of folks that are going to be speaking on this program, as well as partners we have around the world, just reach out to us. We'd be happy to help hook you up with whatever the help or assistance you need at this moment is. So thank you very much. And Maria Luisa, thank you. Thank you for your passion, and thank you for your caring, and thank you for everything you do every day.
Thank you so much, Penny. Really appreciate it. So this is it for our Women Exporter Program podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Penny Naas for giving us her time, her wisdom, and her children. Which don't worry, Penny. For some miracle, mine didn't walk in and appear in the screen like he always does every day now in COVID 19. Thank you so much. So stay tuned for the next time. We're going to have many more guest speakers. We're going to talk about very important topics. And if you have any ideas, please put them in the chat box and let us know other topics or speakers that you would like to hear from. Thank you.